The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance, please stand and be led in prayer by Imam Ammar Amanet of the Islamic Center of Virginia, Richmond. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Senate Page Elise Hill of Midlothian.
Let us pray. Almighty God, Lord of all the worlds, the most loving and full of grace, we praise you and thank you, for you are the source of all that is good for us in this day, as in days past and days yet to come. We stand before you as representatives of your people, humbly seeking your help. Guide us in all of our affairs to the path of righteousness and peace. In these times of difficulty, we are strengthened in knowing that we are not alone, that your spirit of divine support and comfort is always with us. We know that the prophets, the righteous, and people of faith did indeed suffer many great tests and trials. We understand that we too must at times bear similar burdens with patience and steadfastness as long as necessary. We humbly ask you to remove from us this affliction that we now endure, for you are the healer. Bring healing to our nation and commonwealth. Truly, the greatest threat to our comfort and well-being is not from the disease of body, but the illness of mind and spirit that spreads hatred and mistrust among us. Eternal God, loving and merciful, it is you that created humanity of a single soul, male and female, and made them into nations and tribes, cultures and colors, that we may know one another, not that we should hate one another. You made not black superior to white, nor white superior to black. True nobility before your eyes is nobility of character and rightness of deeds. By your grace, you united us as a nation, but we have divided and separated because of our mutual hatred and hostility. Truly, we are on the edge of a fiery precipice, and it is you who lower for us the rope of our salvation, that we may be bound together by your covenant in unity of purpose. You have commanded us to stand up for justice as witnesses of God. Guide us to justice and fairness in all of our deliberations. You have called upon us to settle our affairs through mutual consultation. Guide us to open and inclusive democratic decision-making. You have summoned us to excellent and kind treatment of our neighbors, strangers among us, the poor, and those in need. Guide us to establish a commonwealth that supports and honors the dignity of all who reside here. We pray for your blessings upon this assembly and all who are gathered here. Amen.
I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Moore, I have a little gift for you, and it is from the Senate. Thank you very much. Sir. Thank you. Thank you. The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. Clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Monday, January 17th, 2022.
The senator from Chesterfield, Senator Hashmi, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates.
Madam President, I move that we waive the reading of the communications from the House.
The senior senator, the senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw, moves the waiving of the reading of the journal. All in favor of the communication being waived from the House of Delegates will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any.
Now comes the time in the morning hour when we have the honor of welcoming our distinguished guests with us here in the Senate gallery. I will give my daily reminder that you will stand and be recognized, and then we will applaud together after we welcome you. The senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It's my honor to introduce the individual who offered the invocation this morning, Imam Ammar Amanet of the Islamic Center of Virginia. Imam Ammar has served as the Central Virginia Muslim community leader for over a decade, and he's been instrumental in building a network of interfaith leaders that support one another through cooperation and friendship. In addition to the numerous religious duties he performs for his faith community, the Imam is also a member of the Clergies Against Racism RVA, a coalition of diverse faith leaders in dialogue striving to dismantle systems of inequality and to foster a more just, compassionate, and inclusive community. Following the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, Imam Ammar also spearheaded the refugee relief program at the Islamic Center, and he coordinated with various faith leaders and the military chaplain personnel to ensure that the refugees were provided with essential needs. And Madam President, I ask that we give the warm welcome of the Senate to Ammar Amanet. Thank you.
Mr. Amanet, if you'll remain standing, I want to thank you for the eloquent words of the senator, and also as a Marine for all the work that you did for the Afghanistan refugees, because Marine Corps was historically very much in that race. And we thank you very much for all that you're doing to bring all of us together. And will the senators join me in the warm welcome of the Imam? The senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning.
Good morning.
Madam President, I rise for the purposes of 4 introductions.
The senator has the floor.
You're going to like all of these, I promise you. Madam President, members of the Senate, up in the gallery today, we have 4 distinguished people, and I will address them individually because they deserve to be individually addressed. With us today, Hermie Sadler, a good friend of mine. Hermie Sadler's been around the racetrack his entire life. From his childhood spent watching his uncle Bud Elliott race to starting his own racing career at age 10 in karting, racing has always been a family affair for the Sadlers. Hermie's karting career culminated with the 1988 World Karting Association Championship. After several years competing on short tracks across the Mid-Atlantic region in late model stock cars, his first big break came in 1993 when he was tapped to drive full-time in the NASCAR Busch Series for Don Beverly, sponsored by the Virginia Department of Tourism and its Virginia is for Lovers logo. Because of his success on the track, Sadler won NASCAR's Rookie of the Year in 1993. Ladies and gentlemen, that Virginia is for Lovers stock car was inducted into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, where it is on display to this very day. Hermie has represented and promoted the Virginia Lottery for the last 22 years, both on and off the racetrack. After his full-time days of driving concluded, Hermie transitioned to the TV booth as a very popular NASCAR race analyst for 16 years for Fox Sports. Hermie is a Virginia small business owner, becoming the youngest general manager and GM car dealership and owner in the country with Sadler Auto Center at the age of 24. And he owns truck stops and convenience stores throughout Southside Virginia. Currently, he is also the vice president of Sadler Brothers Oil, a company started here in the Commonwealth by his father. Currently, Hermie resides in Emporia, Virginia with his wife, Angie. They have 3 daughters, Cora, Haley, and Naomi. Ladies and gentlemen, and Madam President, I wish that you would extend to Hermie Sadler the warm welcome of the Senate.
We thank you, Mr. Sadler, for all you're doing for our great Commonwealth, and that your vehicle produced the introduction of Virginia is for Lovers, and we hope you have one. Virginia is open for business. So we extend to you the warm welcome of the Senate. Thank you. The senator from Franklin County.
Thank you, Madam President. I now have the honor and pleasure of introducing Hermie Sadler's brother, Elliott Sadler. Elliott Sadler is an American former professional stock car racing driver. He last competed part-time in NASCAR's Xfinity Series, driving the number 10 Chevrolet Camaro for Cowlig Racing. Elliott is one of 36 drivers who have at least one win in each of NASCAR's top 3 series. Elliott was born in Emporia, Virginia. He is both the younger and some say better-looking brother of Hermie. Early on in his racing career, Elliott won 13 races alone, Madam President, in 1995 at the historic South Boston Speedway, earning South Boston Speedway Track Championship of the Year for that year. Sadler moved up to the Cup Series full-time in 1999, driving the number 21 Ford Taurus for Patrick County, Virginia's own famous Wood Brother Racing. Elliott earned his first NASCAR Cup Series win in 2001 at the famous Bristol Motor Speedway, coming from the back of the pack, starting in 38th position to win. Now, that also, Madam President, was the first win in 8 years for the Wood Brothers. Elliott later left the Wood Brothers for Robert Yates Racing, driving the number 38 famous M&M's Ford, replacing Ricky Rudd. Elliott Sadler is a 17-time race winner in NASCAR's top 3 divisions and was voted by NASCAR fans 4 times as NASCAR's most popular driver in the Xfinity Series, the most, Madam President, of any driver in that division. An avid outdoorsman, Elliott resides in the great county of Greensville near Emporia, Virginia with his wife Amanda, son Wyatt, and daughter Austin. He's not just a champion on the track. He's also a champion of our Virginia small business owners. And so for those reasons, Madam President, I would ask that you extend to Elliott Sadler the warmest welcome of the Senate.
Good morning. We thank you for being here, and we thank you for the many wonderful things that you have done according to the senator. Hope you continue to do many more, and please come back and visit again. And will the senators join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate? Thank you. Senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Madam President. This is number 3, so we still have 2 to go. Madam President, I'm especially proud and honored to introduce to you today and members of the Senate in the gallery with us is Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett is an American professional wrestler, professional wrestling promoter, podcaster, actor, and businessman. He's best known for his time in the WWE, the WCW, and the TNA wrestling organizations. Beginning his career in his father's Continental Wrestling Association, the CWA, in 1986, Jarrett first came to prominence upon debuting as a country music star wrestler in World Wrestling Federation, WWF, now known as the WWE, in 1992. Known to wrestling fans throughout the world as Double J. Jarrett wrestled and beat the likes of Shawn Michaels in 1995, Chris Benoit in the Starrcade 1999 wrestling match, and he even was supposed to beat Hulkamania himself, Hulk Hogan, in the infamous and very controversial Bash at the Beach 2000 wrestling match. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Jarrett was also a member, along with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, of the famous Four Horsemen Wrestling Dynasty. A third-generation wrestler and promoter, he has held over 80 championship titles. That's 80 championship title belts throughout his career. Among them, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. He won that 6 times, Madam President. The WCW World Heavyweight Championship, which he won 4 times, Madam President. The WWA World Heavyweight Championship, which he won twice. And the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Championship belt 3 times. And the AAA Mega Championship belt, which he won twice. Jeff Jarrett was inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame in 2015 and the WWE Hall of Fame in 2018. Jeff hails from Hendersonville, Tennessee, where he runs his many businesses, including the very successful Podcast Heat, LLC. He lives with his wife, Karen, her children, Kira and Cody, and their 3 daughters. And get this, Madam President, see if there's anything you recognize. Jocelyn, Jerlyn, and Jacqueline, or as we like to refer to them, Triple J's. Jeff is here today to stand up for thousands of convenience stores, gas stations, and truck stop small business owners throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Clearly, Madam President, you don't want to mess with the Double J. Or you might just get the atomic elbow, or as his famous move was, Madam President, the stroke. He'll get it to you from the top rope. Madam President, I ask that we extend the warmest welcome of the Senate to my good friend, Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
Good morning, Mr. Jarrett. We know a thing or two about wrestling here in the Senate. Different venue, different ring, but same principle. But we thank you for all that you do and the businesses that you've opened and are helping. Thank you very much, and we extend to you the warm welcome of the Senate. Thank you. Senator from Franklin County, Senator.
Thank you, Madam President. Jeff Jarrett knows what it's like to be in a cage match, or like one of these cages. He has a great experience, so this looks very familiar to him, I promise. Madam President, members of the Senate, my final introduction, it needs no introduction because I think everyone who loves Washington football and the Redskins would remember LeVar Arrington. LeVar Arrington is a former American football linebacker who played in the National Football League for 7 seasons. He played college football at Penn State and was drafted by the Washington Redskins in the first round of the 2000 NFL Draft. The Washington Redskins chose Arrington with the 2nd overall pick of that 2000 NFL Draft, Madam President, and he played for the Redskins from 2000 to 2005, and unfortunately he played for the New York Giants thereafter, which broke all of our hearts. All of our hearts. LeVar is a native of Pittsburgh, and in recognition of his outstanding career as an All-American linebacker for the Nittany Lions of Penn State University, this month, Madam President, this month it was just announced that our own LeVar Arrington will be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame at the 64th National Football Foundation Annual Awards Dinner. LeVar currently works in the media, appearing on Fox Sports Network, radio shows, and podcasts. LeVar and his wife, Tricia, have 3 daughters, Marley, Layla, and Penn, and a son named LeVar. Mr. Arrington is here to champion Virginians' own Hall of Famers, our convenience store, gas station, truck stop, and restaurant small business owners who have served us so well during the pandemic here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And for those reasons, Madam President, I would now ask that you extend to my friend LeVar Arrington the warmest welcome of the Senate and congratulate him on his future induction in the College Football Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Harrington. We recognize all of your many accomplishments. However, if you could tell us the name of the football team, that would be wonderful. Virginia. We thank you for all that you do, and we extend to you the warm welcome of the Senate. Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. You may not have a green sheet on this, Madam President, but I'm very privileged to recognize a very special guest in the gallery today, and that is Olivia Vogel, my seatmate's daughter. Olivia is 9 years old. She is the youngest in the Vogel clan, and I think she's the cutest of all as well. She is in the 4th grade, but she got a snow day today and got to come to the Senate to watch us and visit with her mother. And Madam President, I would ask that all the members offer her the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Good morning. Yes, good morning to you, and thank you for coming to see the adults in the room and how your Senate operates. This Senate will be yours one day, and we thank you very much for coming, and please extend the warm welcome of the Senate to this young lady.
We have a message from the House. Would you call the Sergeant at Arms?
Sergeant at Arms.
Madam President, a message from the House.
Please receive it.
The delegate from Pennsylvania, Delegate Adams.
Madam President, I've been directed by the Speaker of the House of Delegates to inform the Senate that pursuant to Rule 5 of H.J.R. 21, the House of Delegates has postponed the special and continuing joint order related to judicial elections until Thursday, January 20th, 2022.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, Madam President, pursuant to Rule 5 of H.J.R. 21, the scheduling resolution, I move that the Senate do now agree to hold the special and continuing joint order relating to judicial elections until Thursday, January the 20th, 2022.
The question is, pursuant to Rule 5 of House Joint Resolution 21, the scheduling resolution, shall the Senate agree to hold the special and continuing joint order relating to judicial elections until Thursday, January 20th, 2020. All in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
38, no, 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Senate has agreed to hold the special and continuing joint order on Thursday, January 20th, 2022. Is there any other business to come before this? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading.
The senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Sasslaw.
Madam President, I move that the Senate bills on third reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 1 and 2, that's Senate Bill 14 through Senate Bill 232, be placed on their final passage in a block. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 2, Senate Bills 14 through Senate Bills 232, be placed upon their final passage in the block with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 14, Senate Bill 53, Senate Bill 232.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Uncontested calendar Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 48, a bill to amend
the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that, all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 2 through 3, that's Senate Bill 48 through 316, be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 2 through 3, Senate Bill 48 through Senate Bill 316, be engrossed and advanced to their third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 48, reported from the Committee on Education and on Rehabilitation and Social Services. Senate Bill 49, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services. Senate Bill 139, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 316, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed and advanced to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced to their third reading.
Senate bills on first reading. Sorry, I skipped it. Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 278, reported from the Committee on Transportation, and there are 3 floor amendments.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
I just had one floor amendment. I don't know. I'm not aware of other floor amendments. Oh, my floor amendment with the line amendments. I waive the reading of the floor amendments.
The question is, shall the reading of the amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading is waived. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thanks. I move the floor amendment, Madam President, and I'm speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
This is the electric vehicle parking spot bill, similar to what we passed last year. What this does is it makes it a traffic infraction or motor vehicle infraction to park a non-electric vehicle in a spot for that's reserved for electric vehicle charging. And the floor amendment just says that there has to be adequate signage to make it clear that what the penalty is and that it is a tow-away zone for people who park there with non-electric vehicles. This makes the bill more parallel with the code for 36-99.11, which is for tow-away in disabled spots. So just makes some clarity so people know what their what the penalty is. With that, I move the passage of the floor amendment.
Does any senator wish to speak to the amendment? Hearing none, the question is, shall the amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
I move for.
The chair is uncertain. We will have a recorded vote. All the senators in favor of the amendment, please vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator wish to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 25, noes 15.
Ayes 25, noes 15. The amendment is agreed to.
Madam President.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator.
I move that the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
Question is, shall Senate Bill 278 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Pardon me. Will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendar as pages 4 through 7 and Senate Bill 54 through 388, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 4 through 7, Senate Bill 54 through Senate Bill 388 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators wish to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 0.
Ayes 37, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I inquire of the clerk, does that complete the calendar?
If you go by for the day on these bills, it does.
Pardon?
Does the senator wish the bills to go by for the day?
Oh, excuse me. You're right. I now move that the said bills go by for the day.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
The calendar is now complete.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate?
Madam President, Senator from Spotsylvania.
The senator, I'm sorry, I'm going to put it in the order that they were received. We have the senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I rise for request.
Senator has the floor.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I bring tidings from Fairfax City on the death a few days ago with one of our leading citizens, a man named James, nicknamed Horse Smith, who died at the age of 101. And let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Smith, and then I will make a motion. James Smith was a native of Cleveland, Ohio. He joined the United States Marines in 1939 and was a member of the 1st Marine Division. He landed at Tulagi in early 1942 during the Solomons Campaign And he was a member of what was known as Edson's Raiders, which were literally the elite, the sort of the protege, the prototypes of the Green Beret for the United States Marines that captured Tulagi over Japanese resistance and then landed at Guadalcanal. And he served in Guadalcanal for the entirety of that campaign. He served on what was known as Bloody Ridge by Henderson Field, probably one of the most famous battlefields in U.S. military history. He was awarded 2 Silver Stars on Tulagi. He awarded another Silver Star and also a Purple Heart at Guadalcanal. I got to know him. I actually had knocked on his door years ago, and we hit it off. When he was convalescing, he was taken to New Zealand and became a lifetime aficionado of the sport of rugby, and actually was a referee and a player for years afterwards. But he was a real-life survivor of Guadalcanal that lived in our community in Fairfax City up until literally a few days ago. After the war, he came back to the United States. He was in the Marines as an officer until 1952, and then he joined the CIA. He served in the Central Intelligence Agency until his retirement. And during that time, he was a pillar in our community. He was an active member of St. Leo the Great Catholic Church, active in the Knights of Columbus, and was really just a wonderful grandfatherly man, which was ironic because from the stories he told me, which I can't repeat on this floor, he saw some of the most brutal hand-to-hand fighting on Guadalcanal and Tulagi that you could ever imagine. And if you think that American boys are not tough enough, you didn't know Horace Smith. He was one of the toughest men to ever come out of this country. And he was just a great man. And when he turned 100, on December 6, 2020, I had a state resolution done for him, and we did a parade through his neighborhood, and he was sitting in the front yard, and it was really when COVID was at its sort of strongest, and yet people came out of their houses to wave at the parade as it went by all through this neighborhood, and he sat on his front porch with a blanket on his lap waving to everybody. He was a great man and somebody that I really admired, and again, he just lived within our neighborhood. As far as I know, and I'm very confident this is true, he is the last survivor of Guadalcanal, or he was. And, of course, he is no longer with us. So today, Madam Chair, Madam President, I would move that we adjourn in honor of James Horse Smith.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Somerville.
Good afternoon, Madam President. I have a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, yesterday we got to see our new Attorney General, Jason Miyares, in the balcony, and it was nice to see him. The Attorney General graduated. He's a fellow Duke, graduated from JMU about 5 years ahead of me. He's our first Duke in public office. First Duke in statewide public office. But it was good to see somebody from the JMU caucus elevated statewide. And however, I just want to say that there's been some things that have happened in that office since he took over, and also before he took over, that I think raised some concern. And I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the body. As you might know from the paper, the day before, I believe it was the day before the inauguration, about 30 people were terminated from the Attorney General's staff. There were 17 lawyers and about 13 staff. Apparently, the Attorney General's office doesn't have the same civil service protections that other agencies of our government has, and attorneys know that they're subject to termination from time to time. I wasn't aware, though, that the Attorney General's staff, even career people, non-political people, were capable of being terminated. But I can just tell you, Madam President, I had several concerns about exactly how this was handled. First of all, amongst the 30 people that got terminated, most of them received about 26 hours notice that they had to turn in their ID cards, their staff, their laptops, and empty their office. There were several of them that actually got less notice than that because HR apparently forgot to send the email, so they got somewhat less than that. They ended up going to HR and ask a question and found out that HR forgot to send them an email. But in any event, That's really a disappointing way to me to handle civil servants, especially career civil servants. Some of them were basically told they had till Saturday to get out. Once that happened, they were locked out of the building, locked out of the parking garage, locked out of their office, and most of them were terminated without even being told what their benefits were. Most of these people have families. Some of them have medical conditions. They didn't know whether or not they had continuing benefits, whether they had COBRA status. They didn't know exactly what termination meant. The normal things you would normally associate with a termination, they were never really advised of. It was kind of an unusual way, I think, to handle termination of government employees, especially non-political ones. Secondly, Madam President, what really concerns me is that I'm not sure a lot of the terminations really reflect an understanding of the legal responsibilities of the Attorney General's office. And when I say that, we all know that the Attorney General has some discretion about how to structure their office, and they can put labels on things, but the entire Civil Rights Division got fired. And you might say that's a policy decision. However, I just want to note the Civil Rights Division, or the lawyers within it who were terminated, were working on 9 cases that Virginia law says the Attorney General is required to file. They don't have discretion about whether to file the case. When certain boards in Virginia, for example, the Real Estate Board, the Fair Housing Board, when they make a finding that discrimination has occurred, our Attorney General is required to file a lawsuit. It's not a policy decision. They have to file it. And those cases are filed and pending. Madam President, one of these trials has a damages hearing in February. Another one has a full trial set in March. There's other cases that are currently pending in discovery and in settlement discussions. There's another trial set in August. There's another one set next year. There's also 11 other cases where the Attorney General's office is currently, one of the fired lawyers is sitting as second chair. Many of them involve new statutes that we passed, that we charged the Attorney General with enforcing. For example, we passed a statute last year, you all might remember, that prohibits landlords from discriminating against tenants based on the source of funds, so that you can't tell somebody you're not going to rent a property to them if they use a Section 8 voucher. Apparently, many of our landlords in Virginia haven't figured out that's now against the law. The Attorney General is currently trying to enforce that, but the lawyers that are enforcing those lawsuits all just got fired on 24 hours' notice. Madam President, there's also cases which I talked about in the Richmond Times-Dispatch involving several larger landlords in the city of Richmond. And also, some lawyers in the Civil Rights Division got fired. Many of them they've already have pending investigations, pending cases, some of which have been filed in court involving the Virginia Values Act, some of the civil rights statutes that we've passed. You may have seen that in the city of Virginia Beach Police Department was recently discovered to be using false documents to get people to confess, which is probably not only a violation of civil rights statutes, I think it actually constitutes criminal conduct myself. Forging public documents, if any other human being was to do it, you'd probably pick up a forgery charge, forgery felony charge. But apparently that it hasn't, the Virginia Beach Commonwealth Attorney hasn't seen fit to do that yet. But in any event, some of these are very serious violations that were currently in process. I would also just note that pretty much, I think, everybody in the Conviction Integrity Unit got terminated. And I would note that the Conviction Integrity Unit, again, you can put whatever label on it. You don't have to have a Conviction Integrity Unit. You can just tell people in your office that's what they're going to do. But these people fulfill our government's constitutional responsibilities. And I'm not talking about the Constitution of Virginia. I'm talking about the United States Constitution. When the government learns that people were wrongfully convicted, or people were convicted using false testimony, there are certain responsibilities that arise to remedy that. And that's what the Conviction Integrity Unit was working on. They were investigating, there were 4 people in that unit. All 4 of them got fired. They were investigating claims of wrongful conviction. They were responding to petitions of writ of actual innocence. They were working on Innocence Project cases from around the state. And the way it works is, when somebody says they're wrongfully convicted, somebody has to do an investigation to confirm or to find out whether those allegations are true. And these people were doing that to fulfill, again, the Attorney General's constitutional, United States constitutional responsibility to properly investigate claims. And now apparently those 4 lawyers doing it were terminated. Now obviously they could be replaced. All these people could be replaced. But, Mr. President, Madam President, I would note that this raises a third issue, and that is the Virginia Code of Professional Responsibility. Now, I know only a few of us here are lawyers, but as an attorney, as a licensed Virginia lawyer, you as an attorney have an ethical responsibility to your client. And the client in this case is the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's not the Attorney General. It's not Mark Herring. The people working in that office have an ethical obligation to their client, the people of Virginia. And the Virginia Code of Professional Responsibility has a specific rule when it comes to declining or terminating representation. And just so you all understand, when you, as a lawyer, when you enter an appearance in the case and you say, I'm the attorney for so-and-so, you don't just get to walk out of the case, say, I'm not doing it anymore. That's not how it works. You have to file a motion to withdraw. You have to appear in front of a judge. You have to tell a judge, I'm leaving this case. You have to give a reason. The judge has to look at the situation and decide it's appropriate. And then the judge has to grant you permission to get out of the case. And then you're no longer obligated to respond to pleadings, to appear in court, to do those things. And the client has a full right to fire a lawyer, but the judge has to approve it. Until the judge approves it, until the judge says you're out, you're in. 17 lawyers in that office were in a case. You can't get out of a case in 24 hours. That isn't how it works. And the Virginia Code of Professional Responsibility says, as an attorney, you're only allowed to get out of a case by using steps reasonably practical to protect a client's interest. And the rules go on in the commentary to say that even if the lawyer has been unfairly discharged by the client, the lawyer must take all reasonable steps to mitigate the consequences to the client. So in other words, as an attorney, they have an ethical obligation to make sure the people of Virginia's interests are not prejudiced by the way they've been fired. These lawyers don't know whether they should be filing motions to withdraw in court. Right now, they're on the hook for anything in that case. They were unable to transition the representation. So, for example, if you get fired as a lawyer in a case, what you typically do is say, okay, client, I'm getting fired. That's great. You call the new lawyer and you say, here's what's going on. Here's the pending case. Here's what's going on in the case. Here's where discovery is. Here's what's going on with the witnesses. Perhaps you prepare them a memo so that the client's interest is not prejudiced. Nobody was able to do this because they didn't have time given the way they were fired. Okay? And so now you have a bunch of lawyers questioning whether or not they're all going to be facing bar complaints because of how they were terminated from representation and basically ordered they're not allowed to do their job. And Madam President, I would just note that this just isn't how you do a transition. It's not. When lawyers move on or whatever, there's steps you have to take. I had to terminate working together with another lawyer once. There's certain ways you have to do it. You have to notify the clients and put them on notice, and it takes time. It usually takes a couple weeks. This isn't how you do it. If you're a doctor, say you're delivering a baby, you don't just walk out of the delivery room in the middle of the delivery because the client says, I don't like the way you're handling this, you're fired. You got to see the project through. If you're going into surgery, you don't just bug out right before the surgery and just see whoever shows up to finish it. You have a responsibility to that person to see the job through and to do it correctly and to withdraw in a way that can be done properly. So, Madam President, I appreciate the Attorney General. He can make lots of policy choices. He can change the way he runs that office. He can restructure it. He can put whatever labels he wants on the different offices. But you can't fire 30 people in 24 hours that are involved in legal matters. That ain't how it works. And it gives me serious concern about how seriously that office takes its constitutional and its statutory responsibilities to represent the people of Virginia on the matters that we have tasked them as this legislature as things they have to focus on. And I really hope going forward they figure out a way to clean up the mess they've created and that they take the responsibilities we've given them very seriously. I would hope, and we're going to be paying attention as this continues to go forward to make sure that the transition is done, hopefully, better. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for just a quick announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the body, tomorrow is our first General Assembly Military Veterans Caucus. Starts at 8 a.m., where we'll get a brief, hopefully, from the incoming Secretary of Veterans Defense Affairs, of course, General Williams in charge of our Guard and some others. And I just wanted to make everyone aware that will be in the normal committee hearing room on the 5th floor. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank the senator. The senator from Rockingham County, Senator Obenshain.
Well, Mr. President, Madam President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Well, let me just say, cry me a river. Mark Herring lost, okay? Get over it. 8 years ago, 30 lawyers or 30 members of that office were let go this year, okay? So what? 8 years ago, 38 folks from the Attorney General's office were let go by Attorney General Herring when he walked into that office following, yes, 38, count them. When he walked into that office following Attorney General Cuccinelli. They were terminated, but the cases they were handling are still being handled by the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia changes every 4 years, and the person occupying that office is still responsible for the handling of those cases. Nobody's withdrawn. The Attorney General of Virginia has not withdrawn from those cases. Should he choose to do so, he will have to go to those courts and withdraw. This is, quite frankly, exactly what happens every 4 years, or in this instance, 8 years. Conviction Integrity Unit, I've scratched my head. It seems to me that that was part of the defund the police movement to begin with. Now, maybe they've done some good things, but you know what? I think the people of Virginia have just had about enough of attacking police and the people who are responsible for keeping our community safe. And it's about darn time that the Attorney General's office was refocused on doing the job of the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia, keeping our families, our communities, and our streets safe. And I am, for one, am likewise very glad that a JMU Duke is in that office. I'm glad that he is serious about reviewing the responsibilities of that office. I'm glad that he is taking a good hard look at the personnel in that office, and I am confident that he is going to do an outstanding job representing all of the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia over the course of the next 4 years.
Thank the senator. Senator Norman, the senator from James City.
Madam President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I associate myself with the articulate remarks that were shared by the senator from Rockingham. But as I listened to the comments from the senator earlier, and by that I am talking about the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, but Madam President, I want you to know that I am also paying attention. And I'm not sure that the comments that were made really fully appreciate the fact that a majority of Virginians have cast their votes and have decided that the previous Attorney General, who politicized that Attorney General's office for the last 8 years, was rejected by a majority of the citizens of Virginia. I appreciate that any time there is a transition in leadership in any state agency, that it is very easy to be myopic and make ambitious and partisan criticisms about the administrative management of any agency. And I would say to the body that I find it flirting with being disingenuous to suggest that somehow the conduct of administratively reorganizing the Attorney General's office may result in a violation of the professional standards of ethics. That, in fact, Madam President, whether overtly stated or through innuendo, at best is disingenuous. And I suggest to you that there are many, many competent attorneys that remain as career attorneys in the Attorney General's office who can assume and will assume management of these cases. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the senator. The senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, wait 1 second. I can't see anyone. I've got 4 glares. 1 second. All right, so I hear above, I see Madam President. Madam President, I'd like to rise for a point of a personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
All right, good. I'll lean this way. Maybe I'll be able to see you again. But it's good to know that you're up there. Madam President, I just want to share briefly 3 conversations I had over the course of a decade. In September of 2013, I had lunch with a friend who worked for Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli, and he told me as he was watching the Attorney General's race, I just don't think I'll be able to work for Attorney General Mark Herring. I do not think that would work at all. And I said, you know what? You have nothing to worry about. He said, because we're going to win the race? I said, well, I think it's going to be a tight race, and it proved to be. I said, but the reality is, if Mark Herring's elected, you're gone. He said, no, Dave, you don't understand. I said, okay. And when the election went the other way, he continued to tell me that there nothing was because he had not heard from the Attorney General's office, the incoming transition once. He said, clearly my job is fine. And that continued. And then he called me up on the Friday following the second Wednesday in January, Inauguration Eve, 4:30, and he said, Dave, you're not going to believe it. They just called me and told me a few minutes ago I'm not supposed to come in. And I said, how about that? Can you believe it? He said, I'm stunned. I'm stunned. I didn't think that would happen. Fast forward to Friday, this last Friday, I get a call from someone and they say, Senator Suderline, can you intervene? We just heard that the Attorney General-elect is going to let go of this individual who happened to hold the exact same position of the person from the previous conversation. And I shared with them the conversations from 8 years prior, and I said, and I can tell you that the next time there's a change, this same conversation will happen somewhere. And I also don't think that it's that authentic for any of us. We've all been on the side of one of these statewide elections that didn't go our way. We know what happens. We know those positions are of that nature, and it should surprise none of us. And I don't think it's very authentic to suggest that it was shocking to us that on the Friday before the inauguration, that's when the individual was informed. Because I can tell you, 100 years from now, however that election goes, if there's a change, someone in my situation is going to be getting a call or whatever communications they have a century from now and say, can you intervene? You won't believe this is happening on the eve before the election. And I'm confident that 100 years before me, the exact same thing was happening as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank the senator. The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Appreciate my good friend and fellow Duke from Fairfax reciting a couple facts, but I want to set the record straight because he got a few of them wrong. He and I were in the Student Senate at JMU, which feels like an eternity ago. But Jason Miyares was actually a little bit younger than us. So I wish I was not as old as I am, and sometimes Reagan reminds me of being ancient, which she did last night, but Mr. Miyares came after we were at JMU. But I remember having some discussions with my good friend at JMU over a number of similar topics that we discuss now, but I want to make sure that the record is straight, because my colleague who represents JMU articulated how many individuals that then Attorney General Mark Herring fired, and he was right that it was significantly more than our current Attorney General, Jason Miyares, but it was actually 43 attorneys fired and multiple law firms let go that were brought in to do conflicts. Madam President, I know that it's been a long time since Senator Servell and I were at JMU together, but in remembering back, there were a lot of positive things we've done, but there's a lot of positive things left to be done here in Virginia. And certainly we've just had an inauguration where all of us have spent the weekend with a peaceful transition of government. And yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, which we celebrate across the entire country. So we were some of the few people in Virginia, certainly some of the few people in the United States actually working. So, Madam President, it does seem somewhat disingenuous that my fellow Duke would come out right out of the box that we're in and criticize the current Attorney General on the first official day of work, because yesterday was a state holiday. And so as we go forward having these conversations, I hope that they will be about the specific policies and directions, because we can certainly disagree about those. We can certainly have our own views. But to criticize a fellow Duke for change in office personnel significantly less than his Democratic predecessor, I think, Madam President, is not a good way to indicate that we're all willing to work together for Virginia.
I thank the senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I just want to point out that this General Assembly and our last governor, Governor Northam, did sign a bill which established a unit of civil rights in the Attorney General's office. I understand completely that a new Attorney General has the prerogative to bring in attorneys who share his philosophy or however he wants to run his office. I understand that. But I certainly hope that the topic of civil rights, which is incredibly important to every Virginian, does not get overlooked in this new administration. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the senator. Does any other senator wish to speak? Hearing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Tuesday, January 18th, the Committee on Privileges and Elections will meet 15 minutes after adjournment, Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. The Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources will meet 30 minutes after adjournment, Senate Room A, Pocahontas. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Higher Education will meet at 3:30 p.m., Senate Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Locke, Howell, Saslaw, Norman, Ruff, and Edwards. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health will meet at 4 o'clock p.m. in Senate Subcommittee Room 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Lewis, Saslaw, Barker, Donovan, and Suderline. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 19th, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Public Safety will meet at 7:30 a.m., Senate Leadership Conference Room, 6th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Lucas, Norman, Ruff, Edwards, Peterson, Marsden, and Eben. The Women's Legislative Roundtable will meet at 8:30 a.m. in the Tidewater Room, 4th floor, at the SunTrust. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 9 a.m. in the shared committee room B at Pocahontas. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11 a.m., Senate Room 1 in the Capitol. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m., Senate Room 2 in the Capitol.
The chair recognizes the senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow in memory of James Smith.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow in the memory of James Smith? As many as are in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow in the memory of James Smith.